What if the show that launched before Dallas reunited its stars a decade later, but as enemies instead of spouses? This forgotten 1971 sitcom about fake servants hiding among the wealthy was doomed from the start, replaced by a medical drama that changed American emergency services forever and forced a beloved British comedy to change its name. The bizarre behind-the-scenes secrets of The Good Life prove that sometimes television history's biggest failures create the most fascinating stories. Fact 1. Pilot aired before series approval. Most television shows follow a pretty standard path to your screen, where a network orders a pilot, watches it privately, decides if they like it, and then either orders a full series or passes on the project entirely. But NBC did something truly backwards with The Good Life in 1971, airing the pilot episode to the public months before they'd officially decided whether the show would even make it to series. On March 22, 1971, NBC broadcast a special 2-hour event called Triple Play as part of their Monday Night at the Movies lineup, and The Good Life pilot was one of 3 sitcom pilots packaged together for viewers to watch. The special was hosted by Dan Rowan and Dick Martin from Laugh-In, and it aired right after a repeat of their hit show. This was essentially NBC asking the American public to help them decide which shows deserved to be on their fall schedule. Typically, networks kept pilots close to the vest, using them as internal decision-making tools rather than public previews. But with The Good Life, NBC had already announced the show would be part of their 1971 to 1972 lineup before Triple Play even aired, making the whole preview even stranger. It was almost like they'd made their decision but still wanted to test the waters. Critics who reviewed the Triple Play broadcast weren't particularly kind to The Good Life pilot, with one calling it relentlessly exhausting slapstick. NBC even repeated the Triple Play special again on August 23, 1971, just weeks before the series officially premiered on September 18th. This unusual preview strategy didn't help the show's fate, and some wondered if negative early reviews from the pilot airing might have actually hurt the series before it even had a chance to find its audience on its regular Saturday night time slot. Fact 2. Based on Damn Yankees author's novel. The Good Life wasn't just some random sitcom idea cooked up in a writer's room. The series was actually adapted from a 1969 novel of the same name written by Douglas Wallop, an author who'd already hit it big in the entertainment world with another one of his books. Wallop had written The Year the Yankees Lost the Pennant back in 1954, and that novel became the basis for the hugely successful Broadway musical Damn Yankees, which then became a popular film. So when Wallop published The Good Life 15 years later, producers were definitely paying attention to his work. The novel told the story of Albert and Jane, a tired middle-class couple who decide to escape their mundane suburban existence by hiring themselves out as live-in servants to a wealthy household, figuring they could enjoy all the benefits of the upper-class lifestyle without any of the financial responsibility. When the New York Times reviewed Wallop's novel, the critic called it a bubbling social comedy and praised how the class struggle between the couple and their wealthy employers produced funny confrontations that had real truth at their heart. Interestingly, Wallop had originally hoped The Good Life might make it to the stage like his Yankees story did, but instead it went straight to television. Wallop lived in Oxford, Maryland, and apparently set parts of The Good Life in that area, drawing from his observations of wealthy East Coast society. By the time the show aired in 1971, Wallop was a well-established author with multiple novels under his belt, and he was also married to mystery writer Lucille Fletcher, who'd written the famous radio play Sorry, Wrong Number. Despite coming from a successful author's work, the TV adaptation couldn't capture the same magic that Damn Yankees had found. Fact 3. Tony Orlando sang the theme song. Every sitcom needs a memorable theme song, and The Good Life had one with an interesting backstory that connected French pop music, American crooners, and a future variety show superstar. The show used a song called The Good Life, which was originally a French tune titled La Belle Vie, written in 1962 by French singer and songwriter Sacha Distel, with English lyrics by Jack Reardon. Tony Bennett had recorded the English version in 1963 and turned it into a hit, reaching number 18 on the U.S. pop charts. But when NBC needed a theme for their new sitcom 8 years later, they didn't use Bennett's version. Instead, they brought in Tony Orlando to record a new rendition specifically for the show. At the time, Orlando was signed to Bell Records, which was the recording subsidiary of Columbia Pictures. And since the show was produced by Screen Gems, another Columbia Pictures division, the connection made business sense. Orlando recorded the theme song with his backup singers Joyce Vincent Wilson and Thelma Hopkins, who would soon become famous as the group Tony Orlando and Dawn, with hits like Tie a Yellow Ribbon Round the Old Oak Tree. The Good Life theme was more upbeat and brassy than Bennett's smooth original version, and an instrumental arrangement played over the closing credits each week. The song choice was actually pretty clever since the title matched the show's name perfectly, even though the song's lyrics about enjoying life's pleasures didn't have much to do with the plot about a couple pretending to be servants. Years later, TV historians noted that the theme song might be more memorable than the show itself, with some viewers from the era saying they could still hum the tune decades later even if they couldn't remember specific episodes. Fact 4. Canceled to make room for Emergency. When The Good Life got canceled at mid-season, it didn't just disappear quietly into television history. Its Saturday night time slot was immediately filled by a show that would go on to make a much bigger impact on American culture than a sitcom about fake servants ever could. On January 15, 1972, just 1 week after The Good Life aired its final episode, NBC premiered Emergency as a mid-season replacement. Emergency was created and produced by Jack Webb, the mastermind behind Dragnet and Adam 12, and it focused on the then new concept of firefighter-paramedics who could provide emergency medical care at accident scenes. The show starred Randolph Mantooth and Kevin Teig as paramedics working with the Los Angeles County Fire Department. What's remarkable is that Emergency didn't just replace The Good Life on the schedule, it actually replaced 2 failed sitcoms at once, since the partners also got canceled that same week. While The Good Life disappeared without much fanfare, Emergency became a genuine cultural phenomenon that changed American society. When the show premiered, there were only 12 paramedic units in all of North America, but the show was so popular and demonstrated the value of emergency medical services so effectively that by 1982, just 10 years later, more than half of all Americans lived within 10 minutes of a paramedic unit. The series inspired countless municipalities and states to create their own paramedic programs, essentially revolutionizing how Americans received emergency medical care. Emergency ran for 6 seasons and produced 122 episodes, plus 6 television movies. The show even spawned a Saturday morning cartoon called Emergency Plus 4. So while The Good Life is barely remembered today, the show that took its time slot literally helped save lives and transform emergency medical services across the entire country. Fact 5. Destroyed by All in the Family, television scheduling can make or break a show, and The Good Life was essentially handed a death sentence the moment NBC chose its time slot. The series premiered on Saturday nights at 8:30 in the fall of 1971, which sounds reasonable until you look at what CBS was broadcasting directly opposite it. The Good Life had to compete against CBS's powerhouse Saturday night lineup that included All in the Family, The New Dick Van Dyke Show, Mary Tyler Moore Show, and its direct competition in the same half hour, a sitcom called Funny Face. All 4 of those CBS shows ranked in the Nielsen Top 20 that season, with Funny Face itself placing 8th. All in the Family wasn't just popular, it was in its absolute heyday, having become a cultural phenomenon that dominated television ratings. The show was so powerful that CBS strategically moved it to Saturday nights, specifically to crush the competition. According to people who worked in television at the time, putting any new show up against All in the Family during that era was basically programming suicide. One person involved with The Good Life later said that the show probably would have lasted only 2 weeks if it premiered in a later era with that kind of competition, but back then networks gave shows a bit more time to find an audience. Larry Hagman himself acknowledged in interviews that being scheduled opposite All in the Family doomed the series from the start. The irony is that The Good Life actually had a solid premise and decent cast, but none of that mattered when viewers were tuning in by the millions to watch Archie Bunker instead. Television historians often point to The Good Life as a prime example of how even a show with potential can be destroyed by brutal counter-programming, proving that sometimes it doesn't matter how good your show is if nobody can find it because they're all watching the competition. Fact 6. Larry Hagman, directed the final episode. Larry Hagman wasn't just the star of The Good Life, he was also trying to establish himself as a director during this period of his career. And he got the chance to helm the series finale even as the show was dying. The final episode, titled Dial M for Merger, aired on January 8, 1972, and Hagman directed it himself while also starring as Albert Miller. In the episode, Charles Dutton's 8-year-old genius nephew comes to visit, and Dutton wants the child treated like royalty by his staff, meaning the Millers have to cater to this spoiled brat. But Albert decides to take matters into his own hands and disciplines the kid with reprimands and structure, two things the boy had apparently never received before in his pampered life. Hagman had actually directed episodes of television before, including 3 episodes of I Dream of Jeannie back in 1967, but this was one of his first chances to direct while also starring in a series. He would go on to direct multiple episodes of Dallas years later, as well as episodes of In the Heat of the Night, establishing himself as a solid television director. According to production records, Hagman directed one other episode of The Good Life earlier in the season as well, so the network clearly had confidence in his abilities behind the camera. Some people who worked on the show said that Hagman wanted The Good Life to succeed badly because it was his chance to be the lead in a sitcom without being overshadowed by a magical premise like I Dream of Jeannie. He'd specifically brought in producer Claudio Guzman, who'd worked with him on Jeannie, because Guzman understood Hagman's creative instincts and let him experiment with physical comedy and slapstick sequences. The fact that Hagman was directing the finale suggests he was committed to the show right up until the end, even though everyone knew by then that NBC had already canceled it. Fact 7. Reunited, Dallas Family, a decade later. One of the most fascinating aspects of The Good Life is what happened to its 2 stars nearly a decade after the show got canceled, when they found themselves working together again in completely different roles. Larry Hagman and Donna Mills played Albert and Jane Miller, a married couple trying to pull off an elaborate deception as fake servants on The Good Life. But in 1980, Mills joined the cast of Knots Landing, the primetime soap opera that was a spin-off of Dallas, where Hagman had become a massive star as the villainous oil baron J.R. Ewing. When Hagman guest starred on Knots Landing multiple times during the early 1980s, he wasn't playing Mills' husband anymore. Instead, his character J.R. Ewing frequently schemed and plotted with Mills's character Abby Cunningham, who was married to J.R.'s brother Gary Ewing, making them in-laws rather than spouses. Both characters were manipulative, ambitious, and willing to do whatever it took to get what they wanted, so their scenes together crackled with a different kind of energy than the domestic comedy they'd done on The Good Life. What makes this reunion even more interesting is that both Dallas and Knots Landing were produced by Lorimar Productions, the same company that had produced The Good Life back in 1971. So, in a weird way, the same production company gave Hagman and Mills a second chance to work together, except this time on shows that actually became massive hits instead of a forgotten sitcom. Mills later said in interviews that she enjoyed working with Hagman and thought he was an amazing talent, and their chemistry clearly worked, whether they were playing a struggling married couple or scheming relatives. The transformation from playing partners in a lighthearted sitcom about class and deception to playing power-hungry soap opera villains shows just how versatile both actors were. Fact 8. 3 cast members reunited on Dallas. The Good Life reunion on Dallas and Knots Landing wasn't limited to just Larry Hagman and Donna Mills. A third cast member from the forgotten sitcom also showed up in the Dallas universe, creating an unexpected triple reunion that few viewers probably noticed at the time. David Wayne, who played wealthy industrialist Charles Dutton on The Good Life, appeared in the original Dallas miniseries when it aired in April of 1978. Originating the role of Willard Digger Barnes. Digger was a broken-down wildcatter who'd once been Jock Ewing's business partner before a bitter falling out, and the character was crucial to the show's mythology since his daughter Pamela married Jock's son Bobby Ewing, creating the central family conflict. Wayne appeared in 4 episodes of Dallas, establishing the character before other actors took over the role in later seasons. So you had this strange situation where 3 actors from a failed 1971 sitcom about fake servants all ended up in the Dallas universe 7 to 9 years later, with Hagman becoming one of television's biggest stars, Mills playing a major villain on the spin-off, and Wayne creating an important character in the original series. What's particularly interesting is that on The Good Life, Wayne's character, Charles Dutton, was the wealthy boss. Hagman and Mills were his employees pretending to be servants, and the show was about class differences and deception. Then on Dallas, Hagman played the ultra-wealthy and powerful J.R. Ewing, while Wayne's Digger Barnes was a poor alcoholic failure eaten up by bitterness over lost opportunities. The role reversal was almost poetic. None of these actors probably imagined while filming The Good Life that they'd all end up connected to one of the most successful television franchises of the 1980s, proving that even failed shows can lead to unexpected reunions down the road. Fact 9. Producer saved Larry Hagman's career. Behind the scenes of The Good Life was a crucial relationship that helped shape Larry Hagman's future success, even though the show itself flopped. Claudio Guzman served as the producer of The Good Life, and he had a special history with Hagman that made him uniquely qualified to work with the sometimes difficult actor. Guzman had been the key producer and director on I Dream of Jeannie, where he had worked closely with Hagman for 5 seasons from 1965 to 1970. According to people who worked on Jeannie, Hagman could be challenging to work with at times, but Guzman was one of the few people who could handle Larry when he was being difficult and still maintain a productive, creative relationship. More importantly, Guzman understood Hagman's comedic instincts and encouraged his ability to create physical comedy and slapstick sequences, letting him experiment with ideas that weren't necessarily in the script. When The Good Life came along, Hagman specifically requested that Guzman be brought on as producer because he trusted him and knew they worked well together. This was Hagman's big chance to be the lead in a sitcom, to step out of Major Nelson's shadow and prove he could carry a show on his own. Some television historians have noted that if The Good Life had been successful, there might never have been a Dallas or a J.R. Ewing as we know them, because Hagman would have been locked into a sitcom contract. The way Guzman directed Hagman, allowing him to develop his comedic timing while also learning when to pull back and play moments more subtly, helped prepare Hagman for the more complex character work he'd do as J.R. Ewing. Guzman went on to direct episodes of other shows like The Partridge Family and The Flying Nun. But his most important contribution might have been helping Larry Hagman develop the skills and confidence that would make him a television icon just a few years after The Good Life failed. Fact 10. British show had to change its name. The Good Life may have failed in America, but its name lived on in a way that created confusion for years afterward. In 1975, 4 years after the American sitcom got canceled, the BBC premiered its own comedy series called The Good Life, about a couple who decide to pursue self-sufficiency by turning their suburban London home into a farm, much to the horror of their posh neighbors. The British Good Life became a massive hit in the United Kingdom and is now considered one of the greatest British sitcoms ever made, starring Richard Bryars, Felicity Kendall, Paul Eddington, and Penelope Keith. When American PBS stations started airing the British series in the early 1980s, they ran into a problem. Even though the American Good Life had been off the air for nearly a decade and was largely forgotten, it had been well publicized enough when it premiered that confusion still existed. Television stations and distributors worried that viewers might think they were getting the old Larry Hagman and Donna Mills sitcom instead of the British self-sufficiency comedy. So PBS made the decision to retitle the British series Good Neighbors for American audiences, which actually worked pretty well since both titles fit the show's premise about neighbors with very different lifestyles. The British show kept its original title in the UK and other markets, but in America it was known exclusively as Good Neighbors throughout its entire run on PBS. Even when the series was released on VHS and eventually DVD in the United States, it carried the Good Neighbors title. It's a bit ironic that a forgotten American sitcom that lasted only 15 episodes forced a beloved British classic to change its name for an entire continent. To this day, many American fans of the British series don't even know it had a different original title, or that it was changed specifically because of a failed 1971 NBC sitcom about fake servants. Fact 11. Featured a future voice acting legend. One of the Good Life's cast members would go on to achieve his greatest fame, not on camera, but behind a microphone, becoming the voice of one of the most recognizable cartoon characters of the 1980s. Danny Goldman played Nick Dutton, the teenage son of the wealthy industrialist who knew the truth about the Millers being fake servants and helped them adjust to their new roles while keeping their secret from his father and aunt. It was one of Goldman's first major television roles. Born in New York City in 1939, Goldman had graduated from Columbia University in 1961 and was working his way up through television with guest appearances on shows like That Girl, Room 222, and Columbo. But a decade after The Good Life ended, Goldman landed the role that would define his career when he was cast as the voice of Brainy Smurf in the animated series The Smurfs, which premiered in 1981. Goldman voiced the pedantic, know-it-all Smurf with glasses for the entire run of the series from 1981 to 1989, and he became so identified with the character that he reprised the role multiple times for the adult animated comedy series Robot Chicken years later. In between The Good Life and The Smurfs, Goldman also had a memorable scene in Mel Brooks' 1974 comedy classic Young Frankenstein, playing the overeager medical student whose endless questions drive Gene Wilder's character crazy in the film's opening. Goldman also became a successful casting director for television commercials in Hollywood, working in that capacity for nearly 30 years and helping cast actors for numerous projects. He passed away in April of 2020 at age 80 from complications of 2 strokes. His agent called him truly one of a kind and said Goldman's biggest passion was always championing actors and helping them succeed. Fact 12. Oscar-nominated British star as comic relief. The Good Life featured genuine Hollywood royalty in its cast, even if American audiences might not have fully appreciated it at the time. Hermione Baddeley played Grace Dutton, the stuffy and disapproving sister of millionaire Charles Dutton, who constantly tried to get the Millers fired because she saw through their incompetence as servants. Baddeley was a legendary British actress who'd been performing since she was a child, making her London stage debut at age 12 in 1918. By the time she joined The Good Life in 1971, she'd already been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her powerful performance in the British film room at the top back in 1959. She'd also become a Disney favorite, playing the maid Ellen in Mary Poppins, Mrs. Worth in The Happiest Millionaire, and providing the voice of Madame Adelaide Bonfamille, the wealthy cat-loving woman in The Aristocats. Baddeley was known for playing brassy, vulgar characters with big personalities, and her theatrical background gave her perfect comic timing for sitcom work. After The Good Life ended, she became even more famous to American television audiences when she joined the cast of Maude in 1974, playing the lovably sarcastic housekeeper Nell Naugatuck. She won a Golden Globe Award in 1975 for that role and remained with Maude until the show ended. Baddeley had this incredible ability to play both dramatic and comedic roles with equal skill, moving effortlessly between movies, television, and stage work throughout her career. She appeared in numerous other American TV shows during the 1970s and 80s, including Little House on the Prairie, Wonder Woman, and The Love Boat. Baddeley passed away in August of 1986 at age 79 after a series of strokes, leaving behind an impressive legacy as one of Britain's most versatile character actresses. Fact 13. Donna Mills' first series. After Clint Eastwood, Donna Mills came to The Good Life at an interesting point in her career, riding a wave of attention from a major film role that could have launched her into movie stardom if things had gone differently. Just months before The Good Life premiered in September of 1971, Mills had starred opposite Clint Eastwood in the psychological thriller Play Misty for Me, which also marked Eastwood's directorial debut. Mills played Toby Williams, the girlfriend of Eastwood's disc jockey character who gets terrorized by a psychotic stalker, played by Jessica Walter. The film was a critical and commercial success, and Mills had what was described as the only nude scene of her entire career, an extended outdoor love scene with Eastwood that ran over 5 minutes. With that film getting positive reviews and strong box office, Mills could have pursued more feature films, but instead she signed a contract with Universal in 1972 and focused primarily on television work. Mills later told Soap Opera Digest that she made the right choice because movie careers generally don't last very long, while her television career turned out to be terrific and sustained. The Good Life represented Mills's first regular role in a primetime sitcom after spending the late 1960s on the daytime soap opera. Love is a many-splendored thing. She later admitted she was incredibly lucky because The Good Life was the first pilot she'd ever done that actually sold, which she didn't realize at the time was extremely unusual. Mills said she enjoyed working with Larry Hagman and wished the show had lasted longer. After The Good Life was canceled, Mills spent the rest of the 1970s appearing as a guest star on hit shows like Gunsmoke, Hawaii Five-0, and The Love Boat, while also starring in numerous TV movies. Of course, she'd eventually land her signature role as the scheming Abby Cunningham on Knots Landing in 1980, a character she played for 9 years and won multiple awards for portraying. Fact 14. Never syndicated, never released on home video. For a show that starred two actors who would become huge television stars in the 1980s, The Good Life has a strange afterlife, or more accurately, no afterlife at all. Despite Larry Hagman's later success on Dallas and Donna Mills becoming a primetime soap icon on Knots Landing, The Good Life was never syndicated after its cancellation in January of 1972. When shows get syndicated, local stations can buy the rights to air reruns, which gives canceled programs a second life and sometimes even builds them a new audience years after their original run. But The Good Life never got that chance. The series simply ended and disappeared, with no stations picking it up for afternoon or late-night reruns the way many other failed sitcoms found new audiences. Even more remarkably, the show has never been officially released on any home video format. No VHS releases in the 80s or 90s, no DVD box sets in the 2000s, no streaming availability in the modern era. It's as if the show has been completely lost to time, except for the memories of the people who watched it during its original 15-episode run. According to television historians, no merchandise or collectibles were ever produced for the show either, though Hagman and Mills did appear on the cover of TV Guide's October 30th, 1971 issue. One person who worked in television reported seeing an episode air on a UPN station in the late 1990s as part of a special showcasing obscure series from Paramount's archives, but that appears to have been an isolated incident. The lack of any home video release is particularly unusual given that both lead actors went on to such significant success that there would presumably be at least some nostalgic interest in seeing their earlier work together. It's possible that rights issues or the fact that the show was produced by multiple companies, Lorimar and Screen Gems, complicated any potential releases, but whatever the reason, The Good Life remains essentially unavailable to modern audiences. Fact 15. Announced cancellation. Unusually early networks usually like to keep their cards close to the vest when it comes to canceling shows, often waiting until the last minute to make official announcements or even letting series limp along without renewal news until after they've aired their final episodes. But NBC did something unusual with The Good Life by announcing the cancellation remarkably early, giving everyone involved months of advance notice that the show was doomed. In November of 1971, NBC publicly announced that they were canceling 5 new shows from their fall lineup, including The Good Life, The DA, The Funny Side, The Partners, and Sarge. What made this announcement particularly notable was that the shows wouldn't actually go off the air until the end of the year, meaning there was a 2-month gap between the cancellation announcement and the final episode's airing. The Doan Report, which covered television industry news, noted that the most unusual aspect of the announcement was how early it came, since networks typically didn't reveal cancellation decisions that far in advance. The final episode of The Good Life aired on January 8, 1972, a full 2 months after viewers and critics already knew the show was canceled. Television historians have speculated about why NBC made such an early announcement, with some suggesting the network wanted to give advance warning so they could promote upcoming replacements, like Emergency, that were already in production. Others thought NBC might have been trying to be transparent about their struggles with low ratings that season and wanted to clear the air publicly. Whatever the reason, it created an odd situation where the cast and crew were filming final episodes knowing the show was already dead, and viewers watching new episodes in December and early January knew they were watching a canceled series. The early announcement may have also hurt what little audience the show had left, since people are less likely to invest time in a program they know is already ending.